Welcome everyone to Loud and Agile Network. Topic of today's discussion is Future of Agile Coaching. Panelists, we have great panelists with us, Dhaval, Josh, and Jesse. They are experts with deep experience in the industry, they are thought leaders, and have extensive knowledge of the global changes that are happening. All three have served in our community for decades, and each of them bring unique perspectives and viewpoints to share with us today. So without further delay, I hand it over to Meenakshi, who's going to facilitate the session, and to our great panelists. Looking forward for the great conversations and learning from their insights. Here you go, Meenakshi.
Hey everyone, and thank you all so much. We must acknowledge the one original panelist who's missing here. Our thoughts go to Lisa, who's recovering from COVID. And thank you for Josh, who bravely stepped in last minute. So this is really not a rehearsed panel. This is really going live and improv and impromptu. So, you'll get what you'll get. It's going to be full of surprises. So speaking of our session today, we've noticed that there are strategic shifts happening in the Agile space, and a lot is evolving and emerging, something that we as Agilists should be used to, but yet it's taking us by surprise. So we thought, how about we come here and seek some wisdom in this room to set a path and a compass forward for navigating in the future. So let's start with about the current state. Let's see, opening the floor for Jesse. Jesse, what would you like to comment on the current landscape and emerging trends currently in the Agile coaching or just Agile ways of working landscape?
Well, first of all, it's exciting to be here, start off the year and talk with some colleagues and some really well-regarded people.
Hey everybody. Hey everybody, if you are not speaking, if you're not one of the presenters, I would like everyone to please mute yourself.
All right, so I took the liberty of muting everyone, and I'll kind of get started. So
okay, thank you.
What are the trends and challenges that are being faced by coaches today? And I'll start first by citing what I believe to be the domino effect. And so in March, early of 2023, in March, February, March, and April, that time frame, Capital One laid off 1,000 Scrum Masters. And at Capital One, the Scrum Master role was had the title of Agile Delivery Lead. And I blame FTX. I blame the crypto crash because what happened with the crypto crash was that investors became very nervous and started holding technology leaders accountable to a metric of profitability per headcount. Basically, during the pandemic, everybody was hiring. Famously, we heard Facebook would hire people just to scroll Facebook and not do anything because they wanted to steal talent for themselves. So there was a bloating of the hiring in the tech space. And then when investors saw this metric, they told all the executives, and then companies like Google and Apple, who have billions of dollars of cash in the bank, are laying people off. Why? They have cash. And it's because there is this downward pressure on leaders to make a case for your job. And when Capital One made the bold statement to say, we're Agile now, and so we don't need Agile coaches, we don't need Agile facilitators on teams, we're all Agile now. And any of the leadership responsibilities you would associate with those roles, we're just going to place those on the shoulders of product managers above and beyond what they already do, because isn't that what we want? We want Agile leaders now. And when you think about 1,000 people times a professional wage, that who's going to say that $10 million is nothing? And so I think that's the first real challenge that we're facing, and the reason that we're all dialing in here today. We just need to call it out that from one perspective, we're seeing a trend that that was started by this, and now all of the executives are being challenged to take a look at their Agile roles and their PMOs and their Agile centers of excellence and their team rosters, and they have to explain why do we have this need if we're already Agile now. And you and I might disagree with them, but this is where the conversation is leading, and now why there are half as many open Agile jobs this year as there were last year, and twice as many people looking for them, and why there are new leaders that are systematically unwinding and dismantling the Agile infrastructure they've been built over the last 5 years. So, and then we have another trend, and then I'll hand it over to Josh. We have another trend where, according to the Business Agility Institute's 2023 report, people are expecting Agile skills in every organization. And so we won. Arguably, philosophically, dogmatically, Agile now is a default dominant conversation, and we're assuming we already are. We might disagree with that statement, but we've got these two competing trends where, because we've made such impact over the last 20, 25, 30 years, everybody assumes we're good now. And then we've got this other competing trend where we're having to make the financial case for our very roles that contributed to the growth of the economy, the increase in results. So we've got two competing trends that are creating a little bit of a stir right now. Josh, what are you seeing?
So I'm seeing you steal my thunder. No, so I actually, just before getting on here, was looking at a clip of Evan Laybourne talking about the Business Agility Institute stuff, where he says, look, he doesn't say we've won. That isn't his exact quote, but he says, everyone is expecting Agile. It's the standard today. It's what companies should be doing. So the question of, is Agile dead? Well, of course Agile is not dead. It is now becoming the standard. At the same time, the Agile industry, i.e. all of the coaches, all of the infrastructure that we've put in place to help people become Agile, really has to undergo a major shift. Because if Agile is now the standard, then why do I need someone to help me just to transform to the standard? And I don't think that it is entirely wrong. I don't think it's entirely right. I think there's some kind of middle ground here. But I do think that the challenges that I've been seeing in Agile coaches, both commercially and in the government space, and folks who describe themselves as Scrum Masters and whatever other Agile term you want to use, people are like, well, but we already have people who know how to do that. Why do I need an Agile coach to come teach me Agile when I can go off the street and I can hire a bunch of devs who've been working in Agile environments for the last 20 years? I don't need an Agile coach to teach them how to do Scrum. Like, they've been doing it. So I think that there's that, I don't want to say problem, but there's that adjustment that we need to make within the Agile industry. I also think that, as you pointed out, like, we have lots of all these job openings over the last decade or so. And I think that there are a lot of people who are Agile, who claim to be Agile coaches, who can read the Scrum guide and command and control Scrum into existence on a team. And I think that has diluted the value of those who are really good at being Agile coaches and those who really do provide that value. And I will say this, so I say this both as someone who is an Agile coach, was an Agile coach, I don't know anymore, and that we have this space of, show me your value, show me why I should hire you, and not the guy off the street who went and did the class and now says he's an Agile coach or she's an Agile coach, and they're at $20 an hour or $15 an hour, and they have the same title as you do. So show me where actual value is. And I think that there are two things here. One is differentiating that, And it's hard to do when you're, unless you're actually like actively talking to someone. And in the federal government, that can be sometimes hard to do. But the other is like, so what is it? What is the value that we expect an Agile coach to bring? And I don't think that's well understood or necessarily well defined across the Agile community even. Like, yeah, I can tell you some of the skills an Agile coach should have, but what's the value an Agile coach should bring? And I think that's something that we need to be redefining and looking at and saying, is it still valuable? I will say from a personal perspective, I have stopped calling myself an Agile coach. And not just because I'm doing more executive work now, but I have changed to calling myself an Agile catalyst because I believe that I have more responsibility as an Agilist, as an Agile catalyst to be effective in making change, as opposed to an Agile coach to help you do your thing. And I really do believe that it's that investment, that taking responsibility for changes to the bottom line, changes to the speed of delivery, changes to other things that will help Agile coaches be able to not just be an overhead, hey, no, we're going to cut these so that we can get the numbers down, but actually showing value. So I think that is kind of I think it's the twofold thing. One, yeah, we're absolutely becoming the standard, but also we have all these Agile coaches, all these people who say I'm an Agile coach, and who am I to say that they're not an Agile coach? There's no standard of what an Agile coach means, who can read a script and a rule book. So, first of all,
I unmuted myself. Thank you so much for inviting me to this panel. Meenakshi, it's always good to see you. And Toby, thank you for your hard work in getting fantastic panel speakers, especially since Lisa was not able to make it today. Joshua, thank you for stepping up. I want to kind of start off by saying, like, whatever I share here is my personal opinion. I have been in the IT industry for close to 20 years, and that's what I want to share. So it has nothing to do with any affiliation that I might have with any organization. So I'll kind of start with that. The question that we have here is, what are some common trends or challenges faced by Agile coaches globally? The first thing is that Agile coaches are not alone. The IT industry as a whole is going through some kind of a turmoil. I don't really know what to call it. I will describe it more as a lot of flux, a lot of changes are occurring in the IT industry as a whole, and Agile coaching is a very small portion of it. We have a lot of friends and colleagues who have nothing to do with Agile or excellent programmers, and they are also in a similar boat of having to look for a job because something occurred in their organization or somewhere else. So if you're an Agile coach, don't take it personally that it is only because of Agile that you are being singled out. The second, and I'm going to echo what Joshua is saying. Couple of things that I want to amplify is first, think of coaching as a skill. And Jesse himself kind of talked about the report that came out from Business Agility Institute that talked about the importance of Agile skills versus Agile titles or Agile accreditations. So definitely take that perspective. Early on in my career, when I started out, I had a little bit of an inkling. So maybe I could see it coming 10 years ago. I had an article posted on my company website, Evolve Agility, about what would you do differently if you did not have the title of an Agile coach. In other words, how would you bring those skills to bear for the kind of work that you do in your organizations without that particular title? That's a challenge often for professionals when we adopt a particular skill that we have as our only title. So I feel personally that is the biggest risk that we have, is when we believe that our title is who we are. So my strong ask will be to consider it as one of the many, many skills that you have, and not get attached to Agile coach as being your identity and the title. The second is the overload of the word Agile and the word coaching. And similar to what Joshua and Jesse were kind of talking about, is things get bucketed or blanketed into these labels where anything and everything now becomes agile and anything and everything becomes coaching. So how do we even differentiate? So this, I feel personally, from an individual standpoint, people, they remain silent when they see goodness out there, and they speak up when they disagree with something. I know this is a very internet phenomenon. What I would have wished to be different is if you hear your colleague, your friend talk about something that you really, really like, amplify their voice. Because if you don't amplify that voice, then you're going to drown out those good voices in the nonsense, in the frankly nonsense. As an Agile practitioner,
Excellent point, Dhaval.
for the last 20 years, I see all of this stuff, and unless we all kind of build our own senses of discerning good from bad and then amplifying what is good, we will get drowned out by all the nonsense that is out there. And unfortunately, that's the current reality in a globalized world where it's not just a small community. Even LAN is not just local to where you are in Loudoun. It's a global community, frankly speaking. So yeah, it is challenging to be drowned out when people who see goodness don't amplify it. So that would be my first ask from folks.
Awesome. Thank you. We went a little over our 8 minutes. We
Right.
actually went 6 minutes over our 8 minutes, but this was so intense and deep. So thank you for getting us off to such a great start. So having heard all of these voices, one thing about like our competency is not our title, and that we have accomplished a lot in our last so many years that now Agile is expected. It's the de facto. So then what trends would you forecast in the near term? I will point this to Dhaval. Go ahead.
I am really bad at predicting the future in many ways. One of my favorite quotes is, whenever you think you know something, go back to the basics, and this time pay more attention to the basics. In other words, the more you pay attention to the fundamentals of a particular field, the better you will be positioned to cope with, to work with, to take advantage or benefit from whatever is changing out in the universe. For example, today, AI would be a thing that people are talking about a lot. I also remember last year, NFT was a thing that people were talking about a lot. So you see these trends, they come and they go. And I don't know whether AI, as we see it today as a large language model, is going to replace people. But I do know that it can be very helpful for people who know how to tell the difference. In other words, my particular experiences with AI or with large language models is it is 90% right, and it takes 100% expertise to know which 10% is wrong. So if you know your field, if you go back to your basics and you understand Agile well, through practice, through experience, through real world application, you can benefit a lot from AI. But if you are clueless in any field, like for example, I might be clueless in Italian cooking. If I take whatever AI tells me to do, I can guarantee it will not be an edible meal. So I need to have some experience with the field that I have to be able to benefit from these trends. So I will definitely recommend paying attention to LLM, but more, I'm going to pay attention to my own fundamentals and understanding of the topic.
Awesome. And we can pass the baton to Jesse.
I've got 3 patterns that I see. I want to build on Dhaval's point about AI as just an example of what's happening. And it's an example of what's happening in the Agile coaching space. In particular, I've been impressed to see how Sanjeev Augustine and Lightspeed have been adopting a niche in their Agile coaching and their Agile transformation services to say, hey, senior leaders, you need to be Agile in the face of an AI transformation that's happening in the entire industry. And so what they did is they found a topic that's resonating with senior leaders right now and then connected it to agility. Another example, at Applied Frameworks. Jason Tanner and Luke Homan just wrote a book about software profitability streams, software profit streams. And so they believe that right now, profitability is the top of mind for senior leaders in the commercial space. And all of their agility is pointed directly towards profitability. So you want Agile? Great. Are you doing XYZ? Sorry, you're losing money on your agility. Here's how you can. So tip number one, or pattern number one in 2024 is niche Agile coaching. That is specific to the time and the temperature right now. Tip number two that I'm seeing is people are leaving the Agile coaching title and they're taking their Agile coaching skills to a lateral role. I've seen the emergence of a role called the TPM, the Technical Product Manager, Technical Program Manager, where Agile coaches are now accountable for actually delivering a solution and a product, but under a different title, using their skills with a new set of responsibilities. I've seen people applying for senior director roles of tech, and they used to be Agile coaches, and they're bringing those skills into a completely different role. That's another pattern that we'll see more and more happening in 2024. And then the third pattern that I hope we see is that more and more of the us on this call right now are going to be asked to do the financial math on our impact. Is your salary worth the money we pay you? And if you can't answer that question right now in 2024, you might be caught up in the next layoff, or you might be moved into a different role that has nothing to do with what you might become now, the enterprise Agile tooling champion. And Agile tooling really is just tooling. And you're like, oh, okay, how did this happen? There was one coach that happened to last year, a friend of mine. She's like, I didn't sign up for this. And well, this is what we need right now. So I see those patterns. Number one is there's going to be more people attaching a niche to their coaching craft. Number two, they're going to be leaving their coaching title and bringing their skills to a new role, which is what Josh alluded to previously. And then third, there's going to be more pressure and more literature, more blog posts, I hope, about the financial impact of your job, of your skills. So, Josh, anything to add there?
I've got one thing to add, and I'm actually going to channel Lisa for just a moment, which is we've all got great skills being Agile coaches, and the fact that we keep talking about what to do in IT is a problem. I mean, not a problem per se, but there are so many. Lisa's view, like when she keynoted Agile DC this year, was like, there are so many world challenges right now that could use the skills that we have as Agile coaches in facilitation, in listening, in bringing people together. And these skills that we've built up as being Agile coaches, there are so many other fields that could use it, not just, well, I'm going to shift within IT. Like it's awesome because I think a lot of us will do it, and think bigger. I mean, we talk about business agility now, or enterprise agility. Think about ecosystem agility. Like, why stop at an enterprise? Go to the ecosystem. Think about where are the places where the skills that you have can make a difference that you want to make, and not just how do I make a paycheck today, although that is important to all of us. But so my piece for 2024 is kind of a reiteration there of, it's a skill, and this skill is widely applicable, way outside of just an IT, how do I get software better? It's applicable at the business agility level. It's applicable in climate change. It's applicable in like all kinds of different areas of the world, and some of the massive problems that we're facing. They need our skills to help deal with them. They also need the skills in a slightly smaller level in your organization, not just on the IT side. And I know a lot of Agile coaches are now just adding enterprise to their title, and I'm like, yeah, that's a whole new set of skills that you're also learning to add to it in order to really do that. But expand, look beyond. In my view, I don't think that your IT coaching is going to come back as suddenly we're going to have a big influx of IT Agile coaches again in the way in which it was 3-5 years ago. I think that 2024 is going to continue to shrink that Agile coaching title role, but there are so many other options as you expand your view and your places where you're looking.
Thank you, gentlemen. This time we made it 30 seconds short of 8 minutes, so that's awesome. We made up. Appreciate that. That's the best part about Agilists. We know how to keep our own time box. We do not need mediators for that. All right. So these are really good points about thinking bigger, thinking laterally, and thinking outside the box. What else can we position, how else can we position ourselves and our fellow colleagues in terms of more longer term challenges in this space? I know kind of like what we spoke did cover some of it, but maybe if we could go more into actionable thoughts, that would be great. And Joshua, how about I start with you?
I'd start with the one that I think is obvious, which is keep learning. Like, and don't limit yourself to, oh yeah, here's the Agile, most recent Agile coaching book published by whoever. Mark Schwartz, who I used to work with, just published a blog post with, here's the top 3 books from a bunch of his AWS executive colleagues that aren't Agile books, like a book about World War II, but they are Agile adjacent and Agile related. And so use those things, use those pieces to expand your skill set, in my view, or get really focused and really good at a thing that you know will continue to pay off. And that's it's kind of the difference between going the PhD route, and I'm gonna get really, really good and known for a thing, or expanding that skill set to become more, I don't want to say more executive, more management, but broader, and being able to accomplish various things. If you want to move into the enterprise space, you're not there now, go read about enterprise change management. Go read about what organization, like what is organizational design look like. Don't just assume that you can take what you did on a team and apply it at an organizational level. It doesn't work. So go do those research. Go find people that you admire. Ideally, go find people who don't look like you, who you admire, and start following them. Start seeing what are the things that they're looking at. Find out what's going on in AI. Hey, if you want to deep dive into AI, cool. But find the next thing that you're going to deep dive in, and apply those skills in that area. And that would be my longer term, is always be learning the next thing, and applying the skills that you've learned from what you have now into that next thing. Jesse, you want to go next?
Sure. Meenakshi, if I could clarify, are we looking for some short-term tips or long-term strategies?
Longer term strategies, but more not just in theory, but also actionable, right? Like we've got some strategies, I think, in the previous answer too,
Right.
But something more tactical too, because not everyone, is very good at interpreting, okay, this is okay in scope, but what do I really, really go out there and do? So I think we got some good tips from Joshua. Anything similar from you?
Yeah. So there's some chatter here in the chat window about certifications and whether it's time to let them expire. And I think the theme for long-term strategies is what Josh has identified around learning. And there's 2 very specific points about long-term learning. Number 1 is certifications matter. According to that report that we just highlighted there in the window, that skills report, only 23% of hiring managers said certifications were not important, and yet 41% of the individuals who had them said they didn't feel they were important. So it's strange that we as professionals don't view our certifications nearly as valuable as the hiring managers who want them. until you ask people, did you learn something from that? Did you learn something from your SAFe course? Did you learn something from your facilitation course? You got a certification, but did you learn? And the answer is universally yes. And so if you're concerned about whether you should invest in a new certification, the answer should be, do you intend to leverage those skills in your long-term future, regardless of whether your title is Agile coach? If the concern is, are you going to renew those certifications that you felt were the only closely tied to Agile coach role? The question is, can you leverage those to market yourself as someone who has these skills? It's not about the certification. It's about gaining the skills, and it's about promoting the fact that you have the skills. In fact, in that same report, there's an emerging pattern that everyone here should be exploring around the pie-shaped professional. Because we've been advocating for T-shaped professionals, which is I'm able to do a lot of things with a little bit of skill and I can contribute to a team. But when it comes to database development, that's my core competency. I can go deep on that. Well, now managers are wanting to see Agile depth and technical depth, or they're wanting to see Agile depth and product management depth. It's now two legs in the shape of the professional. And so those certifications, either gaining them or renewing them, can help you gain the knowledge and skills or promote your knowledge and skills as you over the long term evolve to somebody that has multiple deep skills to bring to the table. Dhaval.
Yes, +1 to what Jesse said. And also, I like what Joshua was talking about. To me, Joshua, what you said and what I heard may be different. What I heard was follow your curiosity. Don't limit yourself to just the Agile section in your library. Follow your curiosity to find other areas. Your awareness about what agility is and how it plays out in your day-to-day world will help you see what history or some other subject much better and differently. So definitely follow that curiosity, +1 to learning and finding out what you don't know. I think a lot of value that these certification courses offer is people have taken the time to pull together a set of information, knowledge, skills that you don't even know you should be aware of. And those certifications kind of bundle them together for you to learn about them and find out. The third thing that I would like to add is to build your stories and your examples through real world experience. What I mean by this is when you are working in an organization, and sometimes if the transformation activity has picked up and you're working with many teams, you may not find the time to go to your organizational leadership and say, hey, I want to be a Scrum Master for the most challenging project you have, because I have the skills and I'm helping other people get better at applying Agile. Can I have one of our most difficult projects where I can be a Scrum Master, where I can be a database developer, where I can be actively working and solving the problem, so I model the kind of behavior and actions that others can follow through. I have consistently looked at it as a huge advantage for the companies that I've worked with. One of the first things I tell for internal coaches is be ready to jump into the most critical project as an active contributor. Because if you are going to be helping others to learn something new, you need to have enough competency to get in the pilot seat and drive it. Whatever that looks like, whether you're a Scrum Master or a product owner or a technologist who is working on the product delivery side. This is where you're going to earn the stories and the examples and a portfolio, which is your body of work. Industries go through, or the market goes through ups and downs. In other words, there are conditions that are beyond your sphere of influence where, for no fault of yours, you may find yourself as part of a reduction of a force. So when you go out and talk to recruiters, you are talking from personal experience and you are talking about your own stories and examples of where you faced similar situations. And if you're working with a very experienced recruiter, they can tell if 5 candidates are repeating the same verbiage, whereas the sixth one is talking about a real life experience, they can tell. So this is going to come in extremely handy, your actual real world experience in the field and the stories that you curate. Take some time. What I'm going to end with on this is maybe carve out 3 or 4 hours for the next weekend and write 4 or 5 paragraphs of different stories or challenges that you have helped solve for. Because being able to recall a story and tell it effectively is also a skill. And the better you are at sharing your own examples in your own way of how you applied agility in that organizational situation, the better suited or a better fit you'll be in the interview that you go for. And Meenakshi, I'll hand it over to you.
Yes, yes. I was just pausing to digest that. Those are awesome encapsulating of basically how each one of us is potentially our own leader and how do we manifest that. So that was, yeah, that's all I'll say to that. So thank you for it.
Mhm.
Okay, so, we've gone so deep that a lot of our questions that we had received, we've kind of spoken to that. And so, Dhaval, I'll come to you here and say that going forward, there's 2 perspectives, right? There's this perspective of the organization and the profit management and show me the money, show me the value. And then
Right.
here are the agile coaches who have these stories, have these examples. They may
Right.
not yet be pie-shaped. So what would be the conversations that you would recommend, in that space to bridge that gap?
Right, right. I think if I understand this correctly, Meenakshi, you're referring to the pie-shaped skill matrix that Jesse introduced to us, which is don't just have one area of expertise, but at least have 2 areas of expertise and a broad enough understanding of the end-to-end flow of where you're working on, right?
Right.
My suggestion would be to first acknowledge that being good at just one thing is not going to help. You see, part of it is that if I only have one particular skill, then I may not be able to appreciate what other skills also provide in order to build the products that my company can sell to their customers. So recognize that your company does not print money. They have to satisfy a customer who then gives their hard-earned money in return for the product or the service that they get. Now, if I only have a singular functional skill set, then my organization will choose to use my services in the singular functional skill set in the limited areas where that is needed. But if I, as an individual, can collaborate with other people from different functional skill sets, find where I have curiosity, and apply myself to acquire new skills, now I am more valuable to my organization. So first is the motivation and desire to grow your skill set in the field or the company that you're part of. And every company has different ways of serving their customers and providing those products and services. The second is ask for help from people who are offering that help to you. Now, it is very difficult, and I think one of the things that I have personally found it challenging, but I always remind myself, is anytime I get an emotional reaction to something, I should pause, because that is my confirmation bias kicking in. What confirmation bias will do is it will try to drive you back to the path that you've always walked on. And if the path I've always walked on has led me to be a functional individual, anytime I hear new information that is different, I'm going to have an emotional reaction to it. So I'm trying my best. So I try to recognize when I am reacting to it emotionally, and I pause and I say, there must be something here that makes me a little jittery. So I should pay more curiosity and attention, because that's where I'm going to learn the most. So I guess those are the 2 very fundamental things that I'll say, build some self-awareness and increase your curiosity in the area where your company provides products and services to your customers. Jesse?
Wonderful, thank you.
So I think there's two things that come to my mind about bridging the gap from the skill set that we have today. Dhaval mentioned a couple of really powerful things about getting a pulse of what is in the organization, what the organizational values as far as skill sets. So I would recommend that step one that he is talking about, that I would also add, is get feedback. Get feedback from not just your boss, but your boss's peers, and ask them, hey, what's been most impactful about as far as the help that I've given or the help that my team has given over the last year? What was most helpful? And write that down. I think most of us on this call have a significant blind spot about what we think is important versus what our leadership thinks is important. So I'm just going to say it. The days of getting paid $200,000 a year to teach people user stories and retrospectives, those days are over. So if you're so excited to go back to work and teach people about user stories and retrospectives, you're not adding value in the eyes of your leadership. So to Dhaval's point, number one, get feedback. What is truly most important, most valuable to my boss, my boss's boss, and their peers? And then go, to his point, go look for that. Josh's point also about reading more diverse topics and more diverse skills. Go out there and explore what options you have available. And then third, the other topic I had in mind is to do a self-audit about your Agile doctrine. So I did mention that there's some new roles that are coming into the world of work these days, and instead of saying, well, that's not Agile, that's command and control, I'm going to judge you as being wrong when that's where the market is going. And so we can be upset that the market is doing what we disagree with, but then maybe that might be how you can help. How you can add a little bit of humanity into an economic downturn that is trying to cut costs. How maybe you can bring in an Agile perspective to that new product transformation, and to Dhaval's point, by contributing, rolling up your sleeves and contributing and bringing your Agile mindset to a new role. So ask, get feedback about what people view to be the true impact that you bring as opposed to what you want it to be. And two, examine your doctrine about what you think isn't Agile might actually be a market trend and an opportunity for you to add some bigger perspective instead of just dismissing it as command and control, waterfall, and anti-Agile outright. Josh, what do you want to add there?
So there are a couple of things that are racing through my mind, and I'm going to start with a very short story of when I first started in it, whatever year that was, in the early, first started in IT, and I came out with a computer science degree, and I was hired to be and they said, yep, we need you to do test. So great, I'll do test. And then I became a dev, and the number of developers who've never done tests, I'm like, wait, why would you ever do this without doing test first? You learn different things when you take on those different roles. Not just you become more valuable to you become more valuable to yourself, and you bring those other roles into the next thing that you're doing and the next thing that you're learning, and you provide a slightly different perspective. I like to think that my code was cleaner and easier because of the fact that I'd had to test all of it manually because it was COBOL at the time, but whatever. But like take that view of things of, I'm not leaving this behind, I'm taking it with me to where I'm going next. So that's one thing. Two, I totally agree, get the feedback, and I make it broad. Make not just your boss and your bosses, the industry. Go look at I'm in the federal government. Go look at USA Jobs. Go look at Indeed. Go look at LinkedIn. What are the jobs that are vanishing right away, and what are the things that companies are actually looking for? even if your company may be saying, hey, we really want you to be to be a Scrum Master, that's what we need you to do. And you're like, I see Scrum Master jobs are diminishing. What else can I do? How can I continue, not just for this company, but because none of us stay at the same company forever anymore, in preparation for getting to the next spot. So always being able to have that forward-looking view. And like I said, I don't know. I've both been a coach. I've been the contractor who's awarded coaching contracts. I've done all those, and now the executive with some coaches in the company, but significantly less because they're not what the market is asking for. So look at where the trends are going, look at who's coming up next, and look at what sounds interesting to you. And it really, like, yeah, we can say, oh, go learn product. And you're like, I hate people. Why? Like, I can do that because that's where the trend is going and I'll force myself to do it. But if you don't like people and aren't going to enjoy working product, don't go become a product coach. Like, find the pieces that, like, yeah, I love getting really deep into technical. Great, go enhance your technical skills again. Find the things that excite you. Or I really want to do, organizational change pieces. Find the things that excite you, but that help you grow. And that it may take a little bit of looking. Yes, absolutely. But it's worth it. And find a mentor who is totally outside of your normal network if you can. Just because that person will give you a very different perspective than anyone that you normally work with and people that, like, we say a coach should have a coach, and you should have a coach, but not like your coworker who's working with exactly the same problems that you are all the time. Find someone who is outside of your bubble if you can, to be a coach, mentor, sounding board on the things that you're going for. Those are the three things that I would add, I guess. Yeah, I think it was three. I don't know. To what you guys have already said. Other than that, I like +1, +1, +1, +1. I'm going, what else can I add? What else can I add?
Great wisdom here. As we come towards the closing session, there's been a lot of interest in our audience and in the crowd-shared questions that people have filled out around AI, around what impact will the generative AI, as it improves, have. A lot of advice is available on the tips of our fingers. And I know Josh did mention that, or was it Dhaval? Sorry, about the 10% expertise, right? The 10% false information that is out there. One needs to be a real expert to grasp that. But outside of that, for that 90%, that is correct, that most people could use and apply and don't need experts for that. What pearls of wisdom can you share in that space?
I think, Meenakshi, what I was sharing was, to know which 10% is BS, you require 100% expertise. And that's the challenge there. I do feel AI will be a game changer for people who really understand their field, because it will simplify a lot of things, so they can quickly filter out what they describe it as the large language model is hallucinating. and so they can quickly filter that out, and then they will be quite helpful and productive. So if you approach it from AI, large language models, from the standpoint of, hey, it might increase my awareness, but I still have to go learn the field for real, then it's a very good partner. It's a very good pair programmer. It's a very good learning buddy. But if I use it as, oh, let me just ask AI and I'll use it whatever they say, then it is a very dangerous partner.
That's right. In some of the cultures, we have this idiom which speaks of half a doctor is as good as life and death, right? So don't trust something who's not really a master at it.
Correct.
Thank
add
you.
another
So-
thought,
Go ahead, Jesse.
and that is that some of the futurists and the technologists I've been talking to believe that generative AI that we've seen explode in the last year and a half is going to be as impactful as the web was at the turn of the century. And I think that's something important for us to realize. If we're seriously talking about what is a once in a generation disruption, and the way that the internet was a disruption, the way that crypto was not, that this is more than a fad. This is something that is fundamentally new and different. And there are just so many quick and easy, cheap courses there on Udemy or on even PMI has a 3-hour badge that you can pick up on AI and project management, and it just do something small and simple to gain a basic literacy so that you can join in the conversations. You don't have to be like Manoj, who's here with us today, who's built his own GPTs and is way smarter than I could ever be in the topic. But you do need to be literate, and illiterate enough to know when somebody else is an expert or when they're just speaking whatever is on the latest blog posts. So I do think that this is something that is absolutely worth your time and attention to become literate, but not necessarily an expert if it doesn't call to you. It doesn't call to me to become an expert. But you better believe that I'm paying attention.
Josh, do you want to add anything?
I was gonna say they've said most of it. The other thing that I think is still in flux is where AI actually ends up providing value. I think there was a lot of hype, and every company said, "Oh, we have an AI thing," and that's kind of dying off. In the same way, like, it's not going to go away. Like, it absolutely will have some transformative value, and it won't be every company saying that they're going to do its own AI thing and doing this, whatever. It will be, where does it actually make sense to use the AI, not just as a showpiece to say, look, we're doing it too, but actually, it's in some ways kind of like the Agile coach. Oh, look, we have Agile coaches. See, we're doing a transformation. Oh, look, we have AI. We're doing we're doing it. But wait, is it actually showing value? Where is it showing value? How is it showing value? I think it's there. I think the value is there. But I think a lot of industry and a lot of specific businesses are just kind of on the Me Too right now and haven't really figured out where the actual value on the bottom line is going to be for them. And I think that's kind of the next step in AI really making that transformative hit. So yeah.
Thank you. So I do notice at the ending, we have come a full circle where we started about value and about profitability and about where the money was actually impacting, as well as a very important back to the basics, which is follow your dream, keep the passion going, see where it is, all that we've learned in Agile, who are we today and who we want to be tomorrow. Go with that. Don't be afraid. Pay attention to yourself and come back to all these experts that we have here as mentors. Don't be shy to reach out to them. So concluding with all these amazing pearls of wisdom, I hand over to Lakshmi for closing.
Thank you, Meenakshi. That was a great session. Thank you, speakers. This is really great. And I'm seeing the chats, like so many questions, so many words of wisdom and great links. So guess what our topic is for the next session? It's on February 8th. So we all talked about the new learnings, and AI is one of the topics we discussed today, right? So our next speaker is someone coming from NASA. This is really exciting. So NASA SME, she's a strategic product manager. Her name is Betsy Stockdale, and her topic is product owners, how are you navigating the AI frontier? Isn't it the right topic, right? So it's going to be, as you keep hearing a lot about AI, is it just a buzzword, or is it's really going to revolutionize the role of product owner? So to find out, let's tune in to the February session. It's on Feb 8th, Thursday, 7 p.m. All right. So we'll
Thank
see
you,
you at that time. And Toby, do you have any?
Sure. Thank you, Lakshmi. So I do want to say a huge thanks to all our panelists. Excellent advice, and everything was coming straight from the heart. As Meenakshi said, this was not rehearsed, or this was coming straight from the heart, and so much good advice. And what I was seeing in the chat is definitely reflective of that. So thank you so much. And once again, Josh, thank you so much for stepping in the last minute to help us while Lisa is recovering from our COVID-19 today. So I do want to take a quick minute to talk about Loud and Agile Network. This month marks our 4th anniversary. This was put together by volunteers in 2019, and we have consistently been delivering pretty much every month, events where we bring thought leaders, authors, experts in the areas of Agile, and this has been an excellent privilege for us, the organizers, and also a great opportunity for all our attendees and of course, COVID-19 came right after we started. And I think we did like 3 events in person, and that was a great experience in pizza management. But right after that, we moved to virtual, and we've been able to get people from all across the globe. In just 4 years, we've grown to 1,788 members. Our goal is to go to 2,200. So shameless plug, if you like what you saw today, and if you want to be part of our community, please do join us. We have events every month, and we look forward to your participation. And once again, thanks everybody for joining. Thank you especially to our panelists. We appreciate you being here. Thank you and good luck.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thank you to everybody who came.